Welcome back to Scrubs and Stocks podcast. In today's episode, I want to talk about the current stock market performance so far in 2025 because after all, this is the Scrubs and Stocks podcast. And I want to talk about the concept of why it's so important to have that time in the market versus timing the market. And really some practical tips for long-term investing success and really what I'm doing right now in my investing strategy and just to share with you where I'm at as far as like my portfolio goes. But anyways, the stock market, if you're checking it right now, it is mid-May 2025. The S&P 500 has rebounded. It's only slightly down for the year, recovering from the sharp 15% decline earlier in April following the announcement of those steep tariffs by our current president. And at that time, I was actually able to buy some stocks at a lower price. But of course, like it may just be luck and it may just be because like I have been watching the trends for the past like months. But anyways, like today, it's almost like green again. This is the first quarter. The first quarter of 2025 is almost over and we're close to getting back to all-time highs. And it's pretty crazy how the market really is responding to the current news that's been happening around. I don't know if you are from the United States or if you're listening from somewhere else in the whole world, but right now in the United States, like there's a lot of uncertainties when it comes to the market, and it seems like we are really witnessing market manipulation in broad daylight, really. Like you can see the news being shown in the media and all of a sudden the market will respond a certain way. And I don't know what to tell you besides if you want to take advantage of this opportunity, you should. And as far as the ethics behind the whole stock market manipulation, there's not much that we can do as retail investors, if I'm being honest with you. And I remember I had this talk one time when I guested in the Investing RN podcast. Shout out to them, one of my favorite podcasts if you're also a nurse who's also interested in listening to other podcasts by nurses. Investing RN is a podcast hosted by my good friends like Josh and Colin and Jen. And they focus a lot more on real estate investments, but just investing in general. I guessed it on their podcast maybe a couple years ago, or was it last year? And they had asked me that question. They were like, what do you think about the stock market manipulation? And this is the reason why a lot of nurses, a lot of people that I know are not really investing in the stock market because of the whole manipulation thing and how Wall Street really is controlling, quote unquote, like the stock market. But I always say that there are a lot of things that are out of control and we need to focus on the things that we can control. And I think that if you're a nurse listening to this podcast right now or watching this podcast, if you're not taking advantage of this wealth transfer or like the opportunities in the stock market, then you're going to be left behind. And yeah, so we have seen the stock market go up and down in the last, I don't know, like few months, just like covering the news when it comes to the tariffs. And it has been crazy. It's been a crazy ride. Like I know that we had talked about the bear and bull market, and there is also another thing we call the kangaroo market where it's just like very volatile performance of the market just going up and down. And that's what we've been on in the past few months. But this podcast, I want to talk a little bit more about the importance of time in the market versus timing the market, because what's really important is that you're invested in the market, regardless of the fluctuations that we have been seeing in the past couple of months. And people who trade or invest in the market think that they can predict when the market's going to go up and down. Although there are some ways to do that, like by studying the trends, the indicators in the market, technical analysis, no one can really accurately time when something is going to go up and when something is going to go down. And so it's very difficult to time the market. But see, I'm like even confused. But time in the market versus timing the market is something else. Time in the market just means that you're constantly invested in the market, whether it's like a good day or a bad day in the market. And you can do this by dollar cost averaging. If you're not aware of dollar cost averaging, it just means that you're putting money in the stock market. You're transferring your money from your bank account to the stock market and consistently investing monthly, even weekly if you want to. But the key is just being consistent with investing in the market. And this is what I have been doing in the past few years. And this has really helped me build the wealth that I have right now in stock market assets, because I'm able to really like take advantage of those good days in the market. And when I say good days, these are the days when the market would dip down and I'm able to buy stocks at a lower price, and then it would shoot up to a higher price, which drives the performance of my whole portfolio in general. And the key really here is staying invested for a long time. Just recently, actually, it was like just a few days ago, I have been doing a lot of walks in the past weeks because I've been dealing a lot with a lot of stress mentally and just going through a big transition in my life, that I needed to do something to help like with my mind. And what really helped me a lot, doing my daily walks. And during my walks, I would listen to a book. And the book that I have been listening right now is The Psychology of Money. And I think I have made a podcast episode on the psychology of money. You can listen to this episode on episode 32, the biggest takeaways from the book Psychology of Money, the true financial freedom. In this like episode, I talked about the lessons that I have gotten from this book. And Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel really is one of those books that I would keep on coming back to. And it's really one of my favorite books. And it's just really good to talk about what is enough for you, what is the true meaning of financial freedom for you, and really how you can make the most of the money that you are saving and investing. And I think a lot of people really focuses so much on making money, on how to be wealthy, but not so much on how they can stay wealthy, which is it's a different topic to talk about. But yeah, I have been reading this book and I have been listening to it during my walks. And I think that in that book, he mainly talked about that one of the greatest trait of a successful investor is being consistent and really investing for a long time. This is the reason why Warren Buffett is such a great investor, because he has been investing for so many years. He's been investing since he was like, 10, 11 years old. And the key is to be consistent and to do this long term. And so if you're able to put time in the market, that is what matters the most if you want to create long-term wealth versus timing the market. And so this recent stock market changes that has been happening really does not make a big difference in my investment strategy, because I'm going to be investing regardless of what's happening in the stock market right now. And the only difference, like when I read the news or when, these things like affect the whole stock market in general, is that if there is a specific stock that I have been eyeing for a long time and I really want to get a discounted price, I would make sure that I put in my limit order for that stock for me to be able to get that for a lower price. And one of those stocks that I have been eyeing for a while was the TSM stock. It's like the semiconductor stock, and I was able to get in at a lower price, and now it has gone up again. But this is something that I plan on keeping for a long time. And so regardless of what's going on with the stock market, I hope that you are continuing to invest and you are consistently investing, because this is what's gonna help you build that long-term wealth. Now, I want to talk a little bit about some real life implications of this fluctuations for nurses like you who's listening to this podcast right now. Now, I know that some of the challenges that you face when it comes to investing is maybe not having the time to like really look up this stocks that I was just like talking to you about earlier. If you don't know specific stocks that you want to invest into, like this is why you should be investing in broad-based mutual funds or like index funds. That way it can take out that challenge of you not having the time to look up like individual stocks to invest in. Now, I don't want you to make impulsive decisions during this economic downturns or this volatility, because people who really make decisions out of emotions typically make the bad decision or like the decision that's gonna ruin them long term. I am also an emotional person. Like I would admit that I have made decisions based of emotions, but I have learned over time that most of the best decisions I have made are the ones that came from when I was really thinking like straight, not really from my emotions. I follow my gut. I'm very intuitive, but at the same time, I also look at the logical side and not just rely my emotions when I make big decisions in life. And that even includes like in decisions when it comes to investing or taking out money or putting in money in the stock market. I don't want you to make decisions. I have seen a lot of like videos of like people pulling money out of their 401ks, cashing out their money from their retirement account during this crazy economic downturns. Like what happened right now in the stock market is just a testament that you shouldn't be selling your stocks at a loss or like liquefying like your assets for a loss just because the market is not doing so good. Because like over time, this is something that's gonna go up again, like especially if you're investing for long term. So don't invest or make big financial decisions based on your emotions. And which brings me to some practical tips on how you can be successful as a long-term investor and as a nurse who is probably very busy with your full-time jobs right now is everything else that I had mentioned earlier. Like you have to start like investing, being consistent. You have to diversify your investments. You have to automate it so it takes out that emotion like from the investing decisions, and that way you're consistent. And also at the same time, like also being informed but not overreacting. So I think that the short-term news that you see right now, it's not really gonna make much of a big difference with your investment portfolio long term, but it's good to also be updated of what's happening. And there is a key balance in doing this. I know for sure that if you're like me, I get pretty affected with the news that I consume every day. So I have to actually limit myself from the news sometimes because it affects me mentally and emotionally. And if you're one of those people, then sometimes like setting boundaries of how much news you consume in a day is very important. So yeah, so I know that it has been a rocky first quarter of 2025, but if you are a long-term investor, which I know you are, then this should not be changing your strategy long term, right? Like you should stay consistently invested and making sure you're focusing more on making more income as a nurse and just being informed but not overreacting to what's happening in the stock market right now. So I want you to stay calm. Everybody stay calm during these times. And if you're actually new to investing, especially stock market investing, because that is like my bread and butter, I want you to check out my free investing class down in the show notes down below, because I talked about the mistakes that nurses make when it comes to stock market investing, which I have mentioned in this podcast episode already, but I go like more deep dive into those like mistakes in this class. It's free to sign up, so make sure that you take advantage of that down in the link below. But yeah, so stay hydrated, stay invested, and stay the course. I know that you hear this a lot from other financial educators, and I cannot stress it enough. Stay the course, because this short term volatility shouldn't affect you if you're investing long term. Like, we're in it for the long run. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So this should not change your investing strategy. Okay? Have a great week ahead, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.